Your brain fog isn't starting in your brain. There's a second nervous system inside your gut. It has over 500 million neurons. It produces 90% of your body's serotonin. And it sends more signals up to your brain than your brain sends down to it. Scientists call it the gut-brain axis. And right now, for most adults, it's sending the wrong messages. This video explains exactly what's happening and what you can change this week. Most people think the brain is in charge. Top-down control, the command center. But the enteric nervous system, the neural network lining your entire digestive tract, operates largely on its own. What it doesn't operate independently from is your microbiome. The roughly 38 trillion bacteria living in your gut communicate constantly with your enteric nervous system, which then communicates with your brain through the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running directly from your brainstem to your abdomen. When your microbiome is balanced, that communication is clean. Anti-inflammatory compounds flow upward. Neurotransmitter precursors arrive in adequate supply. When your microbiome is imbalanced, the signal flips. Inflammation travels upward. Neurotransmitter production drops. Your brain receives a constant low-grade distress signal it can't identify or ignore. That's what brain fog feels like from the inside. Dysbiosis, a significant imbalance in gut bacteria, does three things to your cognitive function. First, it triggers neuroinflammation. Harmful bacteria release endotoxins that can cross the blood-brain barrier and activate your brain's immune cells, causing chronic low-grade inflammation. Neuroinflammation is directly associated with cognitive fatigue, slowed processing speed, and difficulty concentrating. Second, it disrupts neurotransmitter production. Your gut produces approximately 90% of your serotonin. When the bacterial species responsible are depleted, your brain's access to these compounds drops. The result? Mood instability, reduced motivation, and the kind of cognitive fog that doesn't resolve with sleep. Third, it impairs nutrient absorption. Dysbiosis directly impairs your ability to absorb B12, magnesium, zinc, and iron, four of the nutrients most consistently associated with cognitive clarity. You can take every supplement on the market and still experience brain fog if your gut isn't absorbing them properly. Here's what's actually driving microbiome damage in adults over 35. Ultra-processed foods. Emulsifiers found in most packaged foods degrade the mucus layer protecting your gut lining. When that layer erodes, bacteria trigger systemic inflammation. Added sugar selectively feeds inflammatory bacterial species while depleting the strains that produce anti-inflammatory compounds. Chronic alcohol, even moderate daily intake, reduces microbial diversity and increases intestinal permeability within weeks. A single course of broad-spectrum antibiotics can alter gut microbiome composition for up to 2 years, and low fiber intake means chronically underfed bacteria and a lining that cannot maintain its integrity. There's also a feedback loop that makes this harder to break than it looks. Chronic stress increases intestinal permeability directly through cortisol's effect on the gut lining. Stress damages the gut. The damaged gut sends inflammatory signals to the brain. The brain produces more stress hormones, which further damages the gut. This is why people under long-term pressure experience cognitive symptoms that feel disconnected from their mental state. The inflammation is real, the mechanism is physical. Now, what actually works? Dietary fiber is the highest impact change. Aim for 25 to 35 grams per day from whole plant sources. The fermentation of this fiber produces butyrate, which directly reduces gut permeability and neuroinflammation. Fermented foods come next. A 2021 randomized controlled trial published in Cell found that a diet high in fermented foods increased microbiome diversity and decreased inflammatory markers significantly over 10 weeks. Omega-3 fatty acids directly reduce neuroinflammation and support gut barrier integrity. And polyphenols found in blueberries, dark chocolate, green tea, and olive oil act as prebiotics, selectively feeding beneficial bacterial species. If our earlier video on brain fog brought you here, this is the deep dive you were looking for. This kind of research is what Cognitive Insight Lab covers every week. If you want to keep up, subscribing takes 2 seconds. Here's a practical 7-day protocol. Days 1 and 2, remove ultra-processed foods and added sugar, not permanently, just for the week. Days 1 through 7, add 1 fermented food daily, 1 serving. Yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, or kombucha, whichever you'll actually eat. Days 1 through 7, hit 25 grams of fiber. Track it for the first 2 days so you know what that looks like. Days 3 through 7, add omega-3 daily, either through fatty fish or a quality supplement. Target 1 to 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA. Throughout the week, protect your sleep. Your gut lining and your brain's waste clearance system both repair primarily during deep sleep. Cut sleep short, and you're rebuilding with one hand and dismantling with the other. By day 7, most people notice less afternoon brain fog and a measurable shift in mood stability. That's the axis starting to rebalance. Your gut is not a secondary system. It is running your brain chemistry in real time every day. The food you eat this week will change what your microbiome produces next week. And what your microbiome produces next week will directly affect how clearly you think, how stable your mood is, and how well your brain performs under pressure. Start with one change, the fiber, the fermented food. Pick one and do it for 7 days. That's where this actually begins. This content is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your diet or health routine.